Alrighty. And Facebook always takes a few seconds for it to figure this thing out. There we go. All right, we are live. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Cash Physical Therapy Headquarters podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about whether you should be hiring or looking for a new grad cash DPT or a new grad DPT, or should you be looking at more of a more experienced, skilled clinician that already has several years or a decade or more experience in treating patients. There's been a lot of talk of this online and a lot of people bashing the experience and the capabilities of new grad DPTs. And our experience has been the exact opposite. So Ben, let's dive right into it, man. What has been your experience in both hiring veterans and new grad DPTs?
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this topic because I think there's a huge misconception about new grads versus seasoned clinicians. And I want to start by saying both can work. Both can work. It really comes down to different things. There's pros and cons to each. I wouldn't say necessarily one's better than the other. It's where you gotta pick where you want it to be easy and pick things on what aspects you might want it to be kind of more difficult, right? And there's learning curves with each and pros and cons with each. So I'm excited to dive into this. But across the board, from my experience, and this is actually contrary to what most people are saying online, I've had the best results with new grads. The first PT, I was a new grad when I started my practice, right? My first PT that I brought on was a new grad, and he's to date, in my opinion, sold more cash packages than any other physical therapist in the entire U.S. Right? New grad. My sales guy, he was a new grad PT, and he's done over $2 million in sales. Again, new grad.
And that's your admin, right?
Yeah. So we've separated the front desk role and the sales role. Most people have them combined. We separated them. So now our front desk can just focus on greeting patients, the patient experience. And then we had John step in. He was actually treating PT for us for about 6 months. And then he was to build his caseload. While he was building his caseload, he helped me out with sales. And he found out he actually enjoyed doing that first phone call. Yeah. And now he does that full time and he doesn't even treat anymore. And he sold over $2 million on the phone. The first new grad that I hired on sold multi-million dollars of sales in cash packages. And my clinic director in San Diego, new grad, kills it, super passionate. We actually just hired on a new grad PT 3 weeks ago, and she sold over $25,000 in cash packages. The first patient she ever saw, she sold a $3,700 package to them. The first patient that she ever saw as a licensed PT, the patient invested $3,700 right there on the spot with her. I think that's got to be a record. I don't think anybody's done that. Other side of the coin, I was looking back and reflecting on this before the podcast. The top 3 physical therapists that struggled the most in my practice of all time were seasoned clinicians. Yeah. Okay. Again, it's a smaller sample size. I've hired about 15 different physical therapists in the last 6 years. So again, it's just sample size of 15. But I'm also seeing across the board with the clinics that we help too, that people are having actually better luck with new grads. Yep. They are more hungry. They're more passionate. They're not burnt out. Like I've been doing a lot of interviews the last 3 or 4 months, and it is night and day, the energy level that when I'm speaking with people on the phone compared to new grads versus clinicians. I'm talking to some of these people that are 3 or 4 years of working insurance-based clinic. They are burnt out. Yep. They're miserable. They just want a job where they can actually just be able to survive and not be burnt out and exhausted at the end of the day. And you can hear it in their voice on that phone. And patients are going to feel that too when they come in. And so that's the thing too, and I don't blame them. I would be, if I was in an insurance-based clinic for 3 years, I would not be a happy individual, and I would lose a lot of the passion I had for the profession at that point with the high bombs that people are expected to see. So I don't hold that against them. It's just the model and what they've been exposed to for the last 3+ years as well. So, but
Right.
curious on your take on the mindset piece of
Yeah.
it. You've got clinicians that new grads that don't really have any basis for what they feel like they're worth. And you got seasoned clinicians as well in the insurance-based model. So curious your thoughts on
Right.
what
So
you
like
think mindset.
when you finally get to the stage where you get to start building a team around you, first of all, like congratulations, because it's really hard to get to that point, as well as like do the mental gymnastics that's required to be willing to take on the responsibility for another human being. So if that's where you're at, bravo to you. Really, really exciting era to be in. And so you just gotta, when deciding what kind of person you want to hire, you really got to think about the business model that you're in. If you're an insurance-based clinic, hiring someone who's more seasoned might make a lot of sense, because the ability to sell is much it's not nearly as important under that model. You just need someone who's very personable, who can actually get good results for the patients. On the cash physical therapy side, of course, you need someone who is an excellent clinician, someone who can get people great results. But sales becomes one of the most important factors when you're hiring people. And if you hire someone who's already had 15, 20 years experience working for in-network clinics, their belief is already pretty hardened and crystallized into what the value of physical therapy actually is. And so if you're charging 200, 225, 250, getting those people to sell what they used to do for a very low cost to patients, you're going to find that they're really going to struggle when they're pitching the follow-up visits and what the rates are going to be, especially if you're selling cash packages, because typically the people they see, they're paying a $50, maybe $100 copay, but now all of a suddenly they're asking the patients for $2,000, and that's a really scary thing for a lot of people to do. And so the line goes, like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Not saying that you're necessarily old if you have a lot of experience, but teaching someone the sales side, we found to be substantially harder than teaching people the clinical skills that they need right out of school. So for DPTs, they're coming in, they're eager, they're excited. They already are aware and educated on the limitations of the insurance-based model. And they know that people are burning out rapidly under that model. So they're coming in gun-ho, wanting to build a future for themselves, pay off their student loan debt, that they know cash physical therapy can do much faster. And so they're learning and picking up the sales so quickly. And because they're profitable for the business very quickly, because of their increased ability or expedited ability to learn sales, they're profitable, they're busy sooner. And that allows you, the owner, to step away a little bit more from treatment, where you now get to spend your time being kind of a clinical instructor and mentoring and coaching them and being a part of their sessions and helping them learn to become world-class clinicians. And so in cash physical therapy, just makes so much more sense to find someone who that we know is going to learn sales faster, who's not going to come in with all these sales and price objections that they feel themselves. Because really, as soon as we can get them profitable, we can buy back your own time and then spend that time teaching them the clinical side, which we already know they're coming out of school like a sponge. They've learned a ton. They're excited to put it to work, but they're still very aware that they have so much more to learn. And so they just come in so eager, so ready, and they just absorb information like crazy, allowing them to very quickly outperform a lot of veteran PTs, which is contrary to what a lot of people think.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's honestly much easier to teach the clinical side of things and bring somebody up to speed than reverse a deep-rooted mindset issue on money that's been deep-rooted on them since childhood as
Right.
well. That's a much more difficult thing to do than teaching somebody the clinical skills, especially when they're coming in like a
Right.
sponge and wanting to learn. So
Right.
yeah.
Like, what would you rather teach someone? Like someone who's already a professional student at learning clinical skills, would you rather teach them something that they already know and are accustomed to like taking on and adapting pretty quickly? Or would you rather teach them an entirely brand new foreign skill of sales? It's like it's so much easier to teach them what they're already accustomed to learning, because the sales thing they're going to pick up much, much more quickly because they don't have those like false beliefs and habits that they've formed over years and years working for an in-network clinic.
Yeah, it's a bear to overcome. And I'm going to say something that might trigger some people, and a lot of people might disagree with me on this, but
Wait.
it is easy to get results in a cash-based practice. Am I telling you that you should go and hire, the worst PTs out there? No, but I hire for personality. I hire for skill set, people that communicate very well over clinical skills, because I can develop this clinical skill set. That's what it comes down to. In a cash-based setting, you're working with somebody one-on-one for an hour. You're not dealing with most likely people with comorbidities where they have hypertension, blood pressure, their tissues can't heal because they're not eating right. These people are active. They're going to do their home exercise program. They're bought in. They're going to go home and do their exercise program. You don't honestly need to be that great of a clinician to get results in a cash-based practice, is what it comes down to, because of the model in which you're in. Yes, you want to be the best clinician that you can be, but long story short, we hire for personality and people that can communicate well, because if we can get them to come back and get in front of us, we will get them the results. It's clinicians that can't communicate, even if they have the best skill set and the most credentials. If you can't get that patient to buy in and come back, the skill set doesn't matter. Yeah. Right. So that's my thought process. And that's hold true with what we've been seeing over the last 6 years in my practice too.
Yeah. Not to mention the candidate pool you get to pull from when you're focusing on a lot of the new grads, because there's so many more PTs graduating that are struggling to find positions that are everything that they hoped and dreamed about when they became PTs. Like, everyone believes that they need to go work in an in-network setting or work at a hospital, but everyone's dreading that. They know it sucks. And if you're a cash practice, we need to be doing a better job of educating the physical therapists who are entering the market on what their options actually are, because PTs are leaving the industry in droves because there's not enough focus on existing practices, cash practices, promoting the work-life balance and the transformations they're able to create for people inside of cash physical therapy. And so there's so much opportunity. We can save so many PTs from giving up on their dreams and quitting the thing that they've already invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into making a reality. Honestly, I think a lot of cash practices are doing the industry a massive disservice by not actively pursuing these new grads to show them that there's a way of doing things. And I think the practices that we're seeing really focus on this new generation, or this next generation of physical therapists. Those are going to be the ones that really explode over the next 5 to 10 years as we see this shift in physical therapy kind of fully transition, where now the general public are now going after more direct primary care physicians. They're looking for out-of-network places where they can actually get quality care that is both going to get them a fast result, but also prevent future issues from happening, which is really just hard to find at any in-network place. So,
yeah, and I think I talked a lot about the sales aspect of it too, and people clinical. Yes, that's important, and to display that too, we hired on a new grad about a year and a half ago. In his first 12 months, he collected more 5-star Google reviews than any clinician in ProKinetics. Yeah. And that's because he was getting great results and communicating with patients very well, and got him great results. And so that's the thing too, is it's amazing to see a new grad get the most Google reviews out of anybody when he's working alongside other seasoned clinicians too. So it's not just sales, but it's also clinical results they can get for people too.
Yeah. And you know what? That actually reminded me of another massive benefit, is just level of knowledge and like sophistication when it comes to the online world. Like, if you hire someone who's been in the game for 15, 20 years, getting them to focus on generating those reviews or creating content for the brand is really, really difficult. Whereas most of the new grad DPTs coming out, like they already have an online presence. They're already used to creating and engaging with content online. And the practices that we see exploding in the online game, who are acquiring patients and filling up their schedules very quickly, they are focusing on creating this short form content, not just the owners, but having their team get involved with that as well. And right now, the practices that are willing and able to create content and then put ad budget behind that content are completely steamrolling the competition who aren't willing to do that. And so that's just a whole nother advantage you have, the digital awareness of social media and how to leverage it. And teaching someone who's never really been active on social media to get on camera, to share their knowledge and to share their perspective on things is really, really challenging. And in the next, especially like now, over the next couple months and years, the practices that aren't willing and unable to create content at scale are really, really going to struggle to compete against those who are. So that's a whole nother reason why getting some fresh blood in the clinic with some new perspectives and this ability and interest in building an online presence is going to just be increasingly more important.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, you just can't beat that energy piece. They're somewhere open to, like you said, creating content, going above and beyond, like learning sales, learning all these different aspects outside just clinical. That I think goes a long, long ways. That you just can't bring the energy with a lot of the more seasoned clinicians who are kind of beat down with the system.
Yeah. So last question, because I know this is a pretty, I think it's easy to tell where we land, where we think people should start. Does someone having 10 years experience at an in-network clinic automatically exclude them from your mind when you're hiring for your practice?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. One of the best clinicians I hired, she had 5 years experience at Kaiser system, and she's our clinic director in Oakland and absolutely kills it. Right. So does not exclude whatsoever. I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I don't take that into consideration at the very beginning stages. That's just something we are taking into consideration during that final interview. Then that's one thing that we know that on final interviews with new grads, we ask a lot more clinical based questions to make sure that they're going to be qualified. Versus in a final interview with a more seasoned clinician, we're diving more into money mindset, energy, analyzing their personality and how much charisma they're bringing to that final interview as well. So there's just different things that we dive into and probe a little bit more on that interview process with more seasoned versus new grads. And there's pros and cons to each. It's just you want to make sure that you were taking those things into account and treating them a little bit different and analyzing them a little bit different ways and putting them in asking different questions based on that to make sure you're not going to get yourself into hot water down the road by making the wrong decision.
Yeah, 100%. So I think if you listen to this podcast, it sounds like we're saying only hire DPTs, but what we're really saying is that the trends that we're seeing and the data that we're getting back from the hires that we make is that new grad DPTs tend to be a much better fit for cash-based practices. This does not mean that you should only target them. You should keep an open mind, put your job postings out there, look at everyone from a clear slate and hire them based off of their personality, their attitudes, and their desire to learn. We're just finding that the people that check the majority of our boxes most of the time are new grads.
Yep, spot on. But yeah, I think where you get in trouble is people online saying it's definitive one way or another.
Yeah,
we lean with the new grads, but that does not mean that you should only hire new grads by any means.
100%. So if anyone has any questions about hiring, about who to hire, how to bring them on, how to onboard them, comment beneath this video or on this podcast. We'd be more than happy to reach out with some of our free resources and training around who you should hire, what you should look for, how to interview folks, how to onboard them, and how to make sure that we're attracting top tier talent as well as retaining that talent long term. If you got value out of this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Cash Physical Therapy Headquarters podcast. Thanks, everyone.